We are at the end of week 6 and it is finally raining, so you're going to hear probably some thunder and see some flashes of lightning while I'm doing this. Hopefully the power won't go out, but I do have a candle lit just in case it does. So here is my update. I am still not done with lectures. I still have the rest of civil procedure and the rest of corporations to go. I am done with everything else, which is really, really good news considering I did have 6 walking into the week, so that's probably, it's decent. It's still not forgivable necessarily, but I also had a practice test today, so I am losing sort of a day, 2 days doing full-length practice tests. So one of the things, the last practice test I did, I walked out of there at the end of the morning in tears because I was just convinced I did horribly. Oh my God, it's so bad. This time around, today was essays and PTs, which of course my anxiety level about essays and PTs are both very, very high. I'm not even sure if I uploaded the video yet about essays, so I'll probably do that tonight as well. So once I upload that video and you can see what my plan is for the essays, I'm going to talk a little bit today about how that worked out for me, because it was a full-length exam, so 6 essays in the morning and then 2 PTs in the afternoon. And I will say that just the structure, knowing that I had the substantive law out of my hair by the time I reached the afternoon was actually a huge sigh of relief for me. So it made the PTs almost welcome because it was like taking a little adventure. Now granted, it's a little adventure that is very, very difficult and very trying, but it was something that I really ended up liking. And excuse me, today my voice is a little bit gone. I'm not sure why I have a sore throat, and that actually could be stress related, but I'm not entirely sure. So one of the things I'm doing about the essays, because these particular essays that I took today are actually not from the practice book, and the only analysis available is a video analysis where someone's talking through the particular essay and how to approach it and whatever else, which is valuable for some people, but I am not one of those people who learns very well by listening. In fact, that's really difficult for me to do. So I was getting really frustrated watching the videos and trying to figure out how I did compared to what the actual answers were. And originally I started going through into my actual essays, and I don't know if you can see, there we go. You can see that I put some comments here on the sides about where I started going right, where I started going wrong. I didn't actually finish this particular essay. There was one issue and then a final conclusion that I didn't get to. I did put conclusions sort of throughout, and so I do reach the conclusions on all but one issue, not interrogatory, one issue. But then here's what I'm actually doing. You can see the plus signs and the minus signs here of the things that I felt good about, the things that I did well on that essay, and the things that I didn't do so well on those essays. And the reason why I put the plus and the minus and then I divvy it out by interrogatory is I want to give myself some positive feedback. Some of the feedback that I've been getting has not been very useful or very positive or constructive. It's just been sort of really general things like needs help on issue spotting. Well, thanks. I'm really late in the game here, so if I suck at issue spotting, then maybe I should just stop right now. And that, of course, is not the right answer because I am less than 3 weeks away, so I don't want to quit at this point. I just got my admission badges for the day of the bar exam and all the rules, which I'll go over in a little bit. But the way that I'm approaching this is I want to give myself just as much positive feedback as I do negative feedback. So for each interrogatory, I put 2 points where I did really well. So one of the things that I wrote down was caught the revocation by proxy issue. This is Will's question. And caught the codicil distinction. On the minus side, I didn't mention the holographic will statute, which was mentioned in the question, or go into a deep analysis, and I didn't mention validity of either will at all. So those are things that, at least that's some constructive feedback for me. I don't know how many points those would be worth. If they're worth anything, maybe they're worth 1 or 2 points, maybe they're worth 6. I don't know. But it is something for me to feel like I did a good job on something, and I caught something, even if I didn't go into as much detail as my perfectionist self would have liked. So this is a way to sort of satisfy a little bit of the perfectionism trait in myself, is to start catching the things that I am doing right, as well as positive reinforcement. So on the second issue, I put, that I got the right results, which is absolutely true. I got the right results on everything. So I came to the right conclusion about, who of these survivors will get something from the estate. And then I did, and I praised myself for getting a correct analysis on one of the particular issues between two people who were both supposed to get the same land. And then on the negative, I actually only had one negative, and that I kind of had to reach for that I couldn't figure out the name or the rule of law that about the sun. So that then directs me as to where in the will's outline I need to look to make sure that I have all my definitions down, to make sure that I understand how all the definitions work with each other, and then what rules are then associated with each of the definitions, if any. And in some areas of law, that's much more important, like in commercial paper or secure transactions, the definitions are very, very important. And others, they're so interrelated with the issues that they're not even, you don't even have to label it out that way. So the other thing that I added, though, which I don't know, again, if you can see, there we go, I'll move my fingers. How did I feel about this test? And so I gave myself a 6 on that because, 1 out of 10, 10 being like, fantastic, I knocked it out of the park. I felt like a 6 on this because wills in general, I was a little bit intimidated walking in, thinking about wills, and of course having to sort of think about it a little bit morbidly because of my brother's death. But I have actually grown to be very, very comfortable with wills in comparison to where I felt at the very beginning. At the very beginning, I would have given myself maybe a 2 or a 3 on this, and now I'm feeling a little bit better. Still not confident that I know all the rules, still not feeling like I nailed it, but feeling like I didn't sink it, at least. I would have gotten maybe, I don't know, I'm guessing maybe 8 or 9 points out of this. And that's, okay, maybe that's me being generous, but whatever. The other thing that I wrote down is, did I need help? Because this is a practice test, my books are nearby, so am I going to grab the book and look at them? In fact, at this point, I probably shouldn't be doing that, but there was tons of people in the room all doing that same thing. So at one point, by the time I got around to the wills question, I was flipping through the book, and yeah, I did need help. I did need help remembering the term for the revocation by proxy issue. I remember the rule, I just can't remember what it was called. And sometimes, especially on the Colorado bar exam, if you can remember what it's called, then that's a lot easier. If you have trouble figuring out what it's called, then it's hard for them to distinguish that you're actually trying to tell them a rule for in relation to that. What tripped me up? Time pressures. At this point, I felt like I shouldn't feel like I was about 20 minutes behind of the schedule that I had set for myself. So obviously, I really, really, really need to work on my timing. Now, part of that was the questions that I went for first were the ones that I felt were the easiest for me to answer. Now, the problem with that is then I then spend all this time talking about how great my knowledge is on this and showing everything that I'm worth. Well, that's great. I'm going to get, maybe I'll get full points for one of those questions. That would be wonderful. But do I want to do that at the expense of the other questions? And around the wills question, which I decided to tackle, I think maybe third or fourth in the game, I was definitely feeling the time pressure, really feeling like I had to move on, really feeling like I just have to be good with this, and I left out one issue which would have gotten me some major points because it did have a major point of law attached to it. So that's one thing I need to remember. And in general, one of the things I wrote down was one thing to change. Well, that's I just mentioned about 12 that I needed to change. But in particular on this one, I need to have an attack plan for how I'm going to approach wills. Definitely Barbary offers their own approach. DU offers their own approach. I need to come up with something that's going to make sense for me for how my brain flows, because my brain does not automatically flow to validity issues first. And so I've got to figure out how I get that in there and make sure that that analysis still gets done, much less in the correct order. And it does not always have to be in the correct order. At this point, the goal is just to get the words on the page, get as many rules on the page as possible, and get as much analysis there, and then make sure I have conclusions. I mean, that's sort of the overall general big picture, but I need to have a big picture in mind for wills, and I need to draw that out and figure out where do I go next. Have I made already for wills, I'm envisioning the star, and I want to make sure I hit all the points of the star, something like that. So that's how I'm feeling about essays right now. They were not a disaster, but I did not answer the corporations question at all. But that was my choice because I still haven't finished the corporations lecture, and corporations is not something I've ever felt too terribly confident about. Did finish the secure transaction lecture. I have no idea, and that question, and I have no idea how I did on that one. So that's the next one I have to look at. I need to breathe. It's been really, really hot in Colorado, and last night I was no exception. I was so overwarm and tired and cranky, and I ended up taking it out on everybody around me, so I apologize to my friends and family for that. But now it's cooling off and it feels much more comfortable for me. But at this point, I'm getting much more agitated about little things than I ordinarily would. And I know I mentioned that about a couple of weeks ago that had really started. Well, it has increased. And I think as the stress increases, again, my little theory about it seeps out into all the other cracks of our life. But I am trying to manage that and at least be cognizant of it and prevent it from really hurting anyone else around me. Tomorrow is the practice exam for the multi-state bar, and I'm not feeling bad about it, even though my testing has not gone well the last few days. In criminal law, for whatever reason, I've gone from like a solid 78%, which was fantastic, down to maybe a 58%, which is kind of to be expected. As you progress through the questions, they get harder and harder and harder, so your percentage correct is going to go further and further down. And tomorrow is going to be no exception. I think all of those are meant to be difficult questions, so yeah, if I get 55, 56%, I'm going to be doing good, I guess, is what I hear. I do have an approach that I'm using for the PTs that I'm trying to figure out how well it's working for me. I did change my approach a little bit, and I am sorry, I'm already realizing that this is 14 minutes long, but you hang in. The PTs, what I am changing about the PTs is, everyone has their own suggestion. And most of the suggestions start with read the task memo first. Read the task memo, figure out what the issue is, figure out what your assignment is, and start labeling that out. And that has not changed. That still happens. But then people have their opinions on whether to read the law library first, whether to read the case file first, whatever. What I am deciding, and then, at what point do you read the statute that might be involved in it? At this point, here is my process. My process starts with reading the task memo. I count up from the bottom 2 paragraphs, and without fail, it is always, that's where the assignment is 2 paragraphs up from the bottom. I read through that. I outline whatever it is. I go ahead and stick it up on the page because I'm typing it. So today I had a brief and I had a demand letter. So the demand letter, for example, I went ahead and I put the letterhead of the law firm that I'm representing, and then at the bottom I put sincerely and the name of the attorney that I'm doing this for. And then filled in a couple of things like the name of the other attorney that this is supposed to be going to, and then the actual requirements of the task memo itself. Then I went through and read through the rest of the task memo so I understood what the subject matter was, finding out that this was a cease and desist memo, okay, or letter. That helps a little bit. The brief threw me off. And it's because I haven't written a brief in many, 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 many years. I used to write quite a few of them throughout my time in law school and my time working in law firms during law school. And now it's just this foreign concept to me. So tonight I'm going to do a little bit of research to make sure that I understand what the different parts of a brief are and how I need to present the material. Now, the two PATs that I was given today, one of them was one that my mentor assigned me, which is great. The other one is one that I ended up choosing because I had already done the one that was assigned. The second one that was assigned I had already done for a different program this year, gotten some really positive, really good feedback, really detailed feedback, so I didn't want to do it again. So I ended up choosing to do one that I had done on the bar exam the first time I went through. And the other assignment, the one that my mentor had assigned me, was actually one that I did the second time through. Now, the first one that I did in 2003, Vargas v. Monti, which many people, I think, remember. I did actually remember. Actually remember at least some of the cases, a little bit of the fact file, not a whole lot of the rest of the file. And I have not yet compared my answer to the answer that was on the bar exam that I had put back in 2003, or the score sheet that Colorado had used that year, which I did get a copy of when I asked for my answers. So that's going to be an adventure. I'm going to save that one for Sunday and then send it to my mentor and have her grade it and see even if I'm giving myself the right kind of feedback. So I felt like as I went through the PT that I had something to improve. Sorry, I really got off topic here. Let me say that. In 2003, I did not pass the bar exam. And so if I got even 4 more points this year doing it than I did when I did the bar exam the first time, then I'm going to feel a lot more confident walking in. If I got the same amount of points, great. If I got less, I don't think I got less. So let me get back to my process. Task memo, read the task memo, put it all in. And then immediately I turn to the statute, because one of the things I've been finding in my practice is that I don't end up giving enough credit to the statute. I give more credit and more weight to the case law than to the statute. And there's certainly an argument for that, but it's the statute that sets out the actual elements. And it's the cases that then interpret those elements and help you distinguish helpful facts from non-helpful facts. Things like that. So I read through the statute first and I just put all the elements of the statute in there right away. Now, on the first one that I did, the Vargas fact pattern, that was great. That was a perfect thing to do. The statute's really short and I could actually put every single element in there and use that in my argument. Wonderful. The problem with it on the second one, Marion Bonner, is the statute's really long. And so I did not pick and choose which statutes I was going to type in. And so I didn't do it word for word, thank God, but the summary of it I think took longer than it really needed to. So throughout the testing today, I was also taking snapshots of what the page looks like after 5 minutes, what the page looks like after 15 minutes, after 30 minutes, after 45 minutes, after 75 minutes, after 90 minutes, and then cut. I spent a lot of time on the first one and then not as much time on the second one. After I get all the statutes in, I then go through and I read the cases. And I skip over some of the factual matters. I note that they're there and I figure out that they're there, but I'm going for the rule of law. So every single thing that would be a rule of law in a case gets put into my outline as well. Not in order yet, because I don't know what the actual issue in my case is. And then I go into the fact file and I start writing down facts. And that's when I start developing my subject headings, if I need to use them, which you usually do. And then I go through and I start, moving stuff around within that page, up and down, in and out, and trying to figure out where I want to put everything and where those rules of law are going to be the most helpful. One of the tricks I found is actually, as I'm writing in the rules of law that come from the cases, just doing a quick citation to the case at the end of that paragraph or sentence or whatever it is, and then that helps me not have to go back and look, where was that case? Who said that? And then I can just immediately remember that that's the case that goes there and then move on from there. And then I proceed with my analysis and perfecting it. I got much further in Vargas, but I also spent 2 hours on Vargas. I spent 30 minutes more than I really should have. But again, how much of that is because I felt like I had something to prove on that one. So the second one definitely suffered because of that. Everything was jumbled all over the place. It wasn't organized very well. It certainly didn't flow. There were half sentences here and there, and it definitely, very definitely was not finished. So that is certainly a lesson learned. I'm not taking that one personally, and I'm not trying to beat myself up with that information. It is going to be a rough 2.5 weeks. I am feeling better. I'm feeling better, and I'm feeling a lot more calm and ready. And I'm using everything that happens as feedback for, okay, you just need to shift a little bit here and a little bit there. We just got all of our rules for the actual bar exam day. And so the first day of the bar exam, I enter at 7:15 in the morning. So I'm going to be getting up like 5:30, 5-ish, and probably leaving around 5:30, getting coffee, chilling out in the parking lot for a little bit, lining up. You can't bring anything with you, and I mean nothing. No pockets, no watches, nothing. So after getting all those instructions today, I have to laugh whenever I see suggestions that are like, make sure, practice how you're going to watch for time during the bar exam. Well, I can't, because can't bring in anything, not even a wristwatch that will help you tell time. The proctors will tell you what the time is, and that's it. And that's it. So, and there's a bunch of other rules, and I don't want to give it away too soon. But it's really restrictive, and I'm going to have to be very careful about what I wear. You can't wear anything with pockets, not a jacket, not a sweater, nothing with pockets, not a hoodie. Fortunately, it's the middle of summer, so we don't have to worry about winter. And I feel for those that have to take it in the middle of February, because that is rough. So, yeah, I'm both pumped, but I'm also really cautious. There goes some more thunder. And I'm going to take advantage of the very beautiful sounds around me. I tend to love rain and I love thunder. So I'm going to take advantage of that and finish up some more studying, do a practice test, and then tomorrow gear up for the MBE. And then, I don't know, go get a massage tomorrow maybe. That will help. So enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend, since I'm not getting a whole lot of mine. And I will see you all shortly for the beginning of week 7. We are in the home stretch officially.